Do you believe that someone like you who only has a high school education may get employment elsewhere? With a downcast expression, Miss Anderson spoke. Carly, I told you the truth about that. In actuality, I'm going to take over as head manager at your place of employment. How come? What are you trying to say? Miss Anderson was taken aback, but this was a fact. My childhood experiences are the reason I want to work in a retail store. My grandfather was a department store manager, so he was extremely close to me and had a big influence on me. Cody Green is my name. I'm a working professional who is 24 years old. I am, incidentally, single and do not currently have a girlfriend. I'm employed for a major department store. I've been employed there for 6 years, having started immediately out of high school. Some people assume that working in a department store is an easy job, but that isn't the case. In actuality, department store work involves a wide range of skills. This is true for the majority of service sectors, but handling challenging clients and irrational complaints is a daily occurrence. Problems are more likely to occur when there are more visitors. It's crucial to keep honing your conversational and product expertise in order to consistently deliver outstanding customer support. It is our responsibility to continue learning in order to provide our clients with a positive buying experience. Selling goods and calling it a day is not enough. The most important things for department store employees to remember are to always look nice, act elegantly, and be the right kind of person for the store. Although working in a retail store may seem glamorous, it's actually very difficult. Even if there were moments when I wanted to give up, I would never forget about my late grandfather. Before he went away when I started primary school, my grandfather owned and operated a department shop in our town that he inherited from his father. My grandfather owned a small department shop, possibly because it was a family enterprise. Still, it was always busy and well-liked by the locals because of his years of experience. The department store was always filled with customers, creating the atmosphere of a lively festival with its flashy displays. My heart would usually skip a beat when I saw the happy shoppers. I cherished the unique ambience of the shop, which was embellished with touches from my grandfather. I requested to go to the department shop whenever I had the opportunity. My grandfather was quite young at heart, even though he was very old. He always wore a neat suit and did his work with efficiency. He was the owner, but he never gave an air of haughtiness. Every time, he walked to the sales floor in humility and took the lead on difficult assignments. Due to his commitment, he was well trusted by his coworkers. My grandfather's personality was a major factor in the department store's happy atmosphere. Normally, everything was quiet, then one day something happened. A patron approached and reported seeing a poorly clothed woman and child in the food court. My grandfather and I went straight to the first floor food court. There was a table with free drinks in front of a mother and child wearing tattered clothes. The two were a small boy, who was approximately my age at the time, and a mother who appeared to be in her 30s. It was obvious, even at a distance, how tired they both were. There were several patrons around who were slightly shaken and uncomfortable. The mother, who was blushing with shame and looking down, must have realized this as well. My grandfather heard one of the women speak to him. "Would you please ask them to leave?" My grandfather heard this and walked gently over to the two. The mother and youngster appeared terrified as he approached, most likely fearing they would be chastised for not placing an order for food. However, my grandfather comforted them by saying, "I'm so sorry for the wait," in a soft voice. "I take it you're here for the interview. This is the direction of the interview room. Kindly go with me." What? When my grandfather said this, the mother's eyes widened in shock. Granted, it was her first meeting, and no official interview was planned, but he took swift action to make sure the two of them would not draw any further interest from obliging bystanders. "Right this way," he said as he led them with an air of professionalism to the reception area. He provided the mother and child drinks and a selection of goodies as soon as they entered the reception area. When I asked the mother, I found out that her name was Karen and that her son, Taylor, looked about my age. With his eyes brightening at the sight of the munchies, Taylor appeared to be rather hungry. Karen cried as she said, "I'm so sorry for coming to the department store looking like this," to my grandfather. "We've irritated and startled other customers." Karen appeared disheveled, yet her mannerisms and speech were surprisingly sophisticated. My granddad and I were shocked as well. After saying thank you, Taylor also started to devour the snacks neatly. Both the father and the youngster appear to be well-mannered and socially adept. It's not at all troublesome, but if you don't mind telling, are you facing any difficulties right now? Well, I was able to flee with my child from my abusive spouse. Daddy was a very frightening person. Even at his young age, I felt empathetic as I stated to Taylor, "That sounds tough." We first avoided sleeping outside by booking hotels, but we eventually ran out of money, which is why we ended ourselves at the food court. I apologize sincerely. You don't have to apologize all that much. People just like you have visited our department store previously. I really have a few social services leaflets. Do you want further details? My granddad saw this and gave her a pamphlet. My granddad was praised several times by Karen. I'm grateful. I had no idea that women who have experienced domestic abuse may find refuge. I believe we'll ask them for assistance initially. Thank you so much for coming, my grandfather remarked to Karen as she was ready to depart with Taylor. You passed the test, Karen, by the way. What topic are you discussing? Grinning, my grandfather clarified, I'm referring to a job interview. I would like to formally hire you as a full-time employee here, if that is okay with you. Me? A full-time worker? Indeed. I've seen from our conversation that you have a strong set of interpersonal skills. In addition, this department store offers daycare for your kids as well as uniforms. We would be thrilled to collaborate with you. Karen's eyes welled up with tears at my grandfather's remarks. Her voice was heavy with emotion as she continued to say thank you. 20 years later, that particular scene is still quite clear in my memory. I wanted to be a man of justice and morality, just like my grandfather. Karen started working at the department shop full-time after that day. When we originally met, she appeared exhausted, but after donning the store uniform and applying makeup, she looked completely different. Karen was a breathtakingly gorgeous woman. She adapted to her new role with ease thanks to her sophisticated manner. Her friendly customer service was highly appreciated by her clients. Karen's life started to normalize when she was employed because of her steady pay. I used to play with Taylor in the daycare where he spent his time. Hi, Taylor. I gave him my clothes and apologized, saying, "It's just hand-me-downs, but I'm giving you some clothes." I wanted to assist Taylor's family because I heard they were still having financial difficulties. It was my mother's suggestion. In actuality, there were brand new garments among the hand-me-downs. However, I didn't tell Taylor or his family about it. Many thanks, my mother exclaimed. We don't have many clothes, so this helps a lot. Taylor grinned as he gave me his thanks. Taylor's mother, Karen, was equally stunning as him. Both had well-defined features and a good build. Taylor and I had a great day together, and I hope we could spend that kind of time every day. Sadly, my everyday schedule came to an end the moment I entered elementary school. My grandfather passed away 3 days after my elementary school admission ceremony. The department store as a whole was taken aback by the abrupt departure. My dad took over the department shop at first, but then something new started to happen. Nearby, a national chain store opened, and shoppers began to pour into it. Our store was going through a management change at the time, which made the timing problematic and most likely contributed to the issue. Ultimately, the department store that was having trouble was combined with the big mall. It's all my fault for not being good enough. My father expressed his profound sadness about the entire ordeal, saying, "I've really let everyone down. However, sometimes it's just misfortune." My mother and the other workers did not hold my father exclusively responsible for everything. Though it's unfortunate that my grandfather and I no longer have those memories, there are instances when accepting fate is the only option. I tried to remind myself of that all the time in an attempt to get over the death of Karen and Taylor. Karen was able to secure a full-time position at a department store in a nearby state, owing to my father's network. In her farewell remarks, Karen remarked, "I can't thank you enough for all the help and for introducing me to my new job. There is absolutely no issue. You've made a significant impact on the department store. I hope your new endeavor succeeds." I was hoping to say farewell to Taylor too, but he was not present. Taylor, who was only 7 years old at the time, didn't seem to be able to take it. It appeared that the loss of the department store, which brought back happy memories of his daycare days, had affected him. I pondered Taylor's current state of health. I kept thinking about him even throughout high school. My parents both work at different department stores at the moment. Our financial status hasn't been as pleasant as it was during my grandfather's prosperous business days. However, our family is close-knit, and we're happy with our circumstances. In paradise, I have no doubt that my grandfather would be most pleased to see us content. I am now more motivated than ever to attend school because I was nominated as the vice president of the student council in my junior year of high school. Mike, a friend of mine, remarked, "Hi, Cody. I take it that you collaborate with Miss Anderson in the student council. Could you please present her to me?" I felt uneasy when I heard the surname Anderson. "I am unable to present you to President Anderson in any way. Although she may have a charming appearance, she is incredibly independent in our student council. The president was a female student named Miss Anderson. Her father is a lawyer, apparently, so she's kind of an ace. Miss Anderson always wears elegant clothing because our school permits informal attire. Her attractiveness allows her to look good in any kind of clothing. Cody, just own up to it. Aren't you just attempting to get close to Miss Anderson?" "Not at all. Miss Anderson doesn't seem to like me at all, not even when I try. Yes, Miss Anderson has been really strict with me. I made an attempt to start a discussion one day while we were by ourselves in the council chamber. I'm not sure what to say because I don't often chat to girls. Well, I understand now. Don't you think you have a fantastic sense of style?" "What? The other girls think you're great, and you're always so trendy. Are you saying I try too hard?" "No, I didn't mean it like that." Miss Anderson gave me a fierce gaze, anger clearly visible on her lovely face. "Whatever I choose to wear, it's none of your business." Miss Anderson quickly turned aside after saying that and returned to her job. When you try to compliment someone, and it is misinterpreted in that way, it can be difficult. I was awkward and didn't know how to react, so I kept working silently. Sometimes she would just look at me without saying anything, and when I questioned, "Is something wrong?" she would answer, "Nothing at all," and turn away. She interrupted me to say, "Stop talking and focus on your work," as soon as she noticed me interacting with other girls. Mike responded, "Well, Miss Anderson was chosen as the student council president, and she's pretty popular among both boys and girls," after I told him the Miss Anderson anecdote. She's not an awful person, in my opinion. It is accurate. Miss Anderson was actually described as a really sweet girl by several of her classmates. She consistently received great grades and did a fantastic job in her role on the student council. Because of her attractiveness, she was the most popular student at the school. While we were on the student council together for a year, Miss Anderson and I never seemed to get along. I wished I could have gotten closer to her. In high school, I told my teacher that I wanted to work at a department store when we were talking about our future plans. The teacher recommended college based on my grades, but I remained true to my choice because of budgetary limitations. I was the only one in my class who had completed high school and started working because my high school was a preparatory school. Yes, even Miss Anderson. I had this uneasy sense that I wouldn't see my high school friends again after today. On graduation day, let's take a group picture. Miss Anderson was surrounded by a large group of females, and they all snapped a group photo to remember the occasion. I had never seen Miss Anderson laugh so freely and merrily before. She generally seemed restrained. My heart raced for some unknown cause. I may have had affections for Miss Anderson, despite my repeated claims that I felt uneasy in her presence. Though I'm not saying I wanted to date her, I do wish our chats could have been more fruitful. I walked out of the school building after thinking that. I received an invitation to a reunion 6 years after I graduated, right as my nostalgic yet bittersweet recollections of my childhood were starting to fade. Our entire grade was invited to a reunion at a posh hotel. I was shocked to learn that Miss Anderson was one of the organizers when I looked at the invitation. Her last name hasn't changed, and it appears she's still unmarried, which surprised me because I assumed she would have gotten married by now given her beauty and wealthy upbringing. Even though I have no intention of courting Miss Anderson, I made the decision to go to the reunion. The day of the reunion then arrived. There were many more people than I had anticipated when we made our way to the hotel. One of the organizers handed me a printout with the names of all the attendees when I got there. We could read about everyone's recent lives in the parts dedicated to current status, a note to your high school self, and present career. Actually, the invitation included this questionnaire. I have heard that Miss Anderson came up with the concept to conduct this poll and provide these sheets on the designated day. Her creativity struck me as impressive. Naturally, Miss Anderson was the center of attention today as she chatted enthusiastically with many of our pupils. Elegantly clothed, she looked even more lovely than she did before. "You work at that prestigious department store. That's amazing." When inquired about her current employment, she smiled and said, "Oh, it's not a big deal." However, it's actually very difficult to land a permanent job at that prestigious department shop. Considering its lengthy history, one must possess respectable academic status and effective communication abilities. Appearance and behavior appropriate for the store's atmosphere are also crucial. Miss Anderson was presumably considered a good fit for the store and extended an offer of employment because she attended a prestigious university and had impeccable manners and looks. I kept stealing glances at Miss Anderson without her knowing as I enjoyed catching up with former classmates. Even though we both served on the student council, I was hesitant to talk to her. I reasoned that she most likely didn't want to socialize with me. But Miss Anderson surprised me by coming over. She said, "Cody, long time no see," with a straight expression, which surprised me. On the questionnaire, you omitted the item about your present occupation. Are you not working right now? That was not the topic I had anticipated, so I apologized a little awkwardly. Since I'll shortly be transferring employment, I purposefully kept it blank. Do you think you can find another job with just a high school diploma? Miss Anderson said something a little patronizing. Actually, I'm about to become a manager at your department store, I said in a cool, collected manner. How come? What do you mean? She questioned, startled. That was the indisputable reality. I was going to be promoted from my current position to manager at the same fancy store where Miss Anderson works. The proprietor of the store extended an employment offer to me because of my good work at my current job and my ability to use my grandfather's contacts. You mean you're going to be my boss? She questioned in disbelief. Yes, that is the main idea. You're not serious. I was alert, expecting her to say anything, but she looked shocked and remained silent for the remainder of the get-together. Her demeanor perplexed me, but eventually I was hired on as a manager at the reputable department store and began working there. Although managing others was challenging at times, it was also more rewarding, and I had the good fortune to have dependable and capable staff members. Although I liked working in a posh setting, Miss Anderson was always scary and appeared far away from me. "Miss Anderson, I don't understand this part," stated Cody. Lily, a recent hire who is a woman, was interacting with me. She was a very attractive and elegant woman, and her charm was distinct from Miss Anderson's. Lily also had a kind demeanor, and many of the male staff members looked up to her. She seemed like a lovely, kind woman, but I couldn't help but feel a lack of romantic sentiments for her. "Oh, this is how you can do it." Nevertheless, I appreciated the lively exchange of messages. I thought that effective cooperation would improve the company's atmosphere even further. But for some reason, Miss Anderson would always interrupt me when I was speaking with Lily. "Hey Lily, ask me or others if you don't understand something." "Miss Anderson, whoa, manager, what's up with the yikes? You need to get on with more crucial tasks." Actually, I remember experiencing something similar in high school. While I worked for the student council, Miss Anderson would tell me to work if I spoke to another female. I wonder whether she thinks I'm letting myself go. "Miss Anderson, well, I think I need to understand what parts the new employees find difficult to understand as a manager," I said, gently calming her down. "So you won't have to worry about me too much if I ask another employee if I'm extremely busy." She didn't seem to like it, even though I was trying to say it gently. "You're acting so nice toward the female workers." After stating, "That's sexual harassment," she walked away. What's wrong with her mindset? I had the same emotions as Lily. I questioned why Miss Anderson, a normally sober woman, gets worked up over me. I questioned whether I would always be spending my time in this manner without ever being able to comprehend her, much like I did in high school. Although I was concerned about Miss Anderson, I was once invited to a drinking party at work. The first party had a somber ambience, but attendees at the second and third events were split up according to departments. I was having a third party with department members before I knew it. "Cody, please have another sip." "Oh, I'm okay." Miss Anderson was the only one who drank silently by herself and didn't talk to anyone, although Lily and nearly everyone else were heavily intoxicated. I couldn't enjoy drinking as much as I wanted to because I was worried about her as a boss. Why am I worrying so much about her, I wonder? "Lily, let's spend the evening together. You're a little too inebriated." Lily came over to me with more aggression than she usually shown, thanks to the booze. Miss Anderson started weeping out of the blue while I was pondering how to handle it. "So be stupid. Is Miss Anderson doing okay? What's that?" Because they were intoxicated, none of the other members, including Lily, seemed to realize that Miss Anderson was crying. I wanted to leave her there subtly so no one would know. "Miss Anderson, it appears that you are not feeling well," I informed her. "You can ride with me to the station." At that moment, I left the party. Since everyone was already inebriated, no one seemed to notice or care that the two of us had vanished. Miss Anderson and I went to a local park first. I reasoned that she might get quieter for a little while if we sat on a bench there. I gave her the bottle of water I had purchased, and after she took a sip, she seemed a little more at ease. "Miss Anderson, what is the issue? Has anything occurred?" She stared at me, tears welling up in her eyes as I asked this. It made me very upset to think that Lily might take you away from me, Cody." "How come?" My uncertainty further increased when I realized that Miss Anderson had called me Cody, a surprising revelation that momentarily left my thoughts blank. "Miss Anderson, are you intoxicated?" This isn't how I would communicate my feelings if I wasn't intoxicated. The good old days, when we just played together innocuously. I didn't know what she was discussing. "You refer to your high school days." "No, that was in preschool, when you and I were much younger." "Oh, then it dawned on me. It dawned on me that Miss Anderson was actually Taylor. She was Taylor, but I had always called her by her last name. However, I recalled having fun with a boy. But your last name was different. Wait. Furthermore, Taylor wasn't a boy's name at the time. Since I wore hand-me-down clothes and had a short hairstyle, people assumed I was a male at the time. Particularly after Cody handed me his old guy clothes, I wanted to tell everyone that I was a girl, but it got tougher. In addition, my mom remarried, changing my last name. It was unbelievable to me that Taylor was Miss Anderson, the popular girl in school. I was momentarily stunned. Miss Anderson does, in retrospect, look a lot like Taylor's mother. It was astonishing to realize that Taylor had become such a lovely and mature woman as she grew older. She went on, tears streaming down her cheeks. Remember, I never said goodbye to you when we were little. As an adult, I can better appreciate how devastated I was when our beloved department store closed. I felt a little resentful of your parents and you. Miss Anderson, I apologize for how coldly I treated you in high school, but I know it was unavoidable. I wanted to identify myself as Taylor and step ahead, but I didn't want you to see my frail side from that time. I got dressed and concentrated on how I looked. We're back to working together, but I still can't be completely honest about how I feel. It's pitiful, which is why I lost it. I sincerely apologize. Taylor. I called her that for the first time in a very long time. She seems momentarily taken aback. I too missed my grandfather's department store, but our friendship will last a lifetime and the memories will never fade. There is always room for improvement between us. Nothing has changed. Cody Taylor grabbed me and called my name. I became aware of how much she had suffered and fought because of her fears as I gave her a hug. I wanted to appreciate her scars and everything. She was Taylor, so I suppose that's why I was drawn to her. We began dating and had a wonderful working connection from that day on. She smiled and continued, I want to become a wonderful department store manager, just like your grandpa. She was so radiant. We must have reconnected because of my grandpa's generosity.